What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the Stock Hustle channel with your boy William. Today is September 25th, and we had such a wild week this week. I decided to make just a recap video, and the goal is to try to keep it under 10 minutes. So ready, set, here we go. All right, so let's start with everybody's favorite AMC. As you guys can see, we did have a pretty turmoil week, starting with Monday, as we did have this gap down from previous Friday, and then consolidated essentially on this line. I reduced this line from 40.01 to 39.99, excuse me, because it just lined up better with the candles. But checking out on Hinki-Ashi, looking for a trend reversal or hunting for trends specifically, you see we did still continue this red trend. Looking at the MACD, we still are in a selling period, and our RSI essentially is at 44, right under neutral, essentially trading over flat. Going into the weeks, just to get a better perspective, again, you see we are respecting this lower level supports. I've essentially reduced the color on the other ones to not make it so hard to see, because again, when you have all these lines on your chart, it can definitely confuse you at times. So one simple way is just to reduce the color, makes it easier, more clearly visible. We're in this channel here respectively so far. On the weeklies, you see that the line on the MACD is getting very close. We did drop down in the RSI. We are also losing momentum on the IV. As you see, we went from the 150s to 140s, and now we're down to 128. So the IV is steadily dropping. That's AMC on a recap. Some of our other plays we have, SPCE. Again, this was a play that was identified to have pennants. It's been talked about a lot on IG and social media. If you guys do a lot of other following of other YouTubers, because of these pennants. Again, they do have another mid-flight in mid-October, so that'll be another catalyst that could potentially push the play up. Again, anytime you see these pennants or triangles, there's usually a breakout that follows. Again, we can look at the history of this stock to validate that, right? Looking at the 1 day, just to clean it up a little bit. Again, clearly visible in both. If you look at it under Hinki-Ashi, it's even more clearly visible. As I've showed you guys before in my previous videos, I like to hunt trends under Hinki-Ashi. It just makes it a lot more easier to start. You can see the start of green here, converting from all this red. That's SPCE. Some of our losers that we had this week, Zoom Video was a loser on an option play on a weekly. Again, I miscalculated this play. It happens. That just goes to show you that no YouTuber is perfect. Nobody can predict the stock market, not even someone who's been in the market for years or decades. We all play under the same rules and guidelines. You're always going to make mistakes, but what you should take away from those mistakes is, what did you learn, right? So what did I learn? I learned that not just because there's heavy buying, specifically in Zoom from Kathy Wood, does it always mean that it will go up. This is another reason why I was so bullish on this play. I'm registered or signed up to receive ARK Invest email notification for buys and sells. On top of the fact that I have Lucid Tracking, I also like to get this because it just gives me specific conversation or specific conviction in plays she buys and sells. Specifically, as you see, Zoom Video 99,000 on the 21st. On the 20th, she picked up Zoom again, 54,000. On the 14th, she picked up Zoom 186,000. Again, this is a $300 stock, so 186,000 shares is not a little amount. It's a significant amount. On the August 31st, you see another 157. That, tied with what I saw in Unusual Whales, gave me conviction to play a weekly. But that's why they always tell you with options, it's never a guarantee. Just like you can read a room and think it's going to go one way, it could go the other way, right? The whole Evergrande issue that we had in the middle of the week did bring down the market. Obviously, these plays are in the market, so it did have a certain effect. Potentially it could have gone the other way had we not had that issue, which again was an overreaction if you ask me. I anticipated it was going to be a bigger deal with Evergrande defaulting on debt, because I thought there would be a lot more exposure to the US that would bring down more plays. But so far so good, right? We did have some red, but it was manageable and tolerable. We did have some green spikes here and there. If you're looking over here on the left, you see that the only two things we have green for the week are AMC and BBIG, but that's okay, because we're going to keep this hustle going. Moving on, Beyond Meat was another loser that we had for the week. No biggie. We lived on to fight another day. Again, as we remember, these were also triangles that were identified in the chart. But again, you're not always going to get everything right. But that doesn't mean you stop trying. You just got to find a better way. Mara and Bryant, we did just recently do a video on these. These disrespect their channel, what they're at. Specifically, they are in this $39 to $34 channel for Mara. Bitcoin did take a pretty big hit yesterday. Where is Bitcoin? We can show you guys Bitcoin. Bitcoin. Let's do it this way. Let's pull Bitcoin. Bitcoin did take a pretty big hit on news that China was going to once again ban it. If you're reading or trying to understand what's happening or why they keep saying this, think about what just happened in China. They recently just had a company potentially default on loan, $300 billion alone. Their banking system can't support all that money leaving or running away. And they know that really wealthy people like to buy Bitcoin. And then if you buy Bitcoin, no one can take it from you, right? Because you own the coin. So by China coming out and saying, oh, well, we're going to make cryptocurrencies illegal, what they're telling all the wealthy there is don't try to convert it to Bitcoin and then run off with the money that you still owe, right? So you got to understand, like, there's a lot of different variables in China. But on that news that China is banning once again Bitcoin, you did have this massive red day. Today, it doesn't look like it's doing much. It just traded flat. And you have this doji candle showing up. Doji candle usually means a trend reversal, so from coming down, it could potentially go up. Again, we'll see what happens. But again, as we did state with the Mara and the Riot plays, those are heavily tied to Bitcoin. So because they are Bitcoin miners, so if Bitcoin goes down, they tend to go down. If Bitcoin goes up, they tend to go up. And we did show the correlation in the charts in previous videos. If you didn't check it out, please do. Moving on, FCell. FCell, I'm really bullish on, and I'll give you my reasons why, my conviction. As you do see this gray bar on the back of this green candle, this is volume. Volume for this specific day essentially was 214 million shares picked up. You see this massive spike in the green candle, then you see it kind of start to trade sideways. However, pay attention to this white line. This white line is a 9-day SMA, or simple moving average. Anytime you start forming green candles above an SMA, usually what comes is a run up. As you see, the candles did trade sideways, and now you see this candle spike on Thursday, and then this one on Friday. But anytime you get a candle formulated above an SMA, you always see a spike, and you can validate that in the chart. Trading on the SMA above it, what do you get after it? A run up. And again, same thing. You'll find this repetitive. It's just a simple way for you to track when a company is going to potentially go up or when it's not going to go up, right? But with FCell, I do have and am very bullish on this. The options chain on unusual whales look really nice for FCell. So I am still a player in this. I'm still a player in Blink as well. This one, we did identify this huge, massive triangle that is being respected very well on the top side and on the bottom side, as you can clearly see. And the other thing you should also take note, as the line condenses, as the triangle condenses down to a point, the line condenses tighter and tighter, and it's respecting it heavily. Also, look at the massive volume back here. Look at the volume drop going into the tip of the triangle. Again, another bullish sign. Look at the MACD. As we get closer and closer to the tip of the triangle, the line on the MACD is getting tighter and tighter to each other. RSI, the swings up and down are getting lower and lower. It's trying to stay close to that neutral point, which is all clear indications that this triangle is validated and it will have a breakout if all the conditions are met for this to break out, right? We've seen it where in AMC their triangles are formulated, but they don't break out the way we expect them to. Anything can happen in the stock market. You just have to be ready. So I am still a player in Blink specifically. And then we'll sum it up with GME. GME, once again, has been trading sideways, essentially in this lower part. We did have this massive spike about two and a half weeks ago, but ever since then, essentially has been bleeding off or just a slow grind to the middle. Nothing major, no big shifts to the upside like we had back here months back in May or excuse me, in March or April. It's essentially been trading flat, but there are still heavy amounts of players that are in this. There are still people buying up the options chain. You just got to be careful with options, as I've shown you guys. You can easily make money and you can easily lose money, right? So I wanted to end the video on showing you guys an example of why I like to play weeklies and why I don't feel that they're that high risk, right? So this past week, I did buy a play. After I invested all my money, usually Mondays are when I drop my buys, or Tuesdays at the latest. Normally, I don't have that much money left over. If I do, I just leave it for the next week when I get my next deposit in my stock accounts to invest. So as you can see, I did have essentially about $12 left. I was scouring the internet for plays. when I got an alert on the 23rd, specifically from Unusual Whales, right? The alert was for a runner play. You can go and check Twitter for Unusual Whales. They do have the alert up still. Essentially what it was, they were alerting that Go EV was potentially going to be a runner because of the options chain and because of the money that was going into it. Specifically, you can take a look at it. Right here on the 23rd, you see this put sold at $10 for $990,000. Immediately it triggered an alert on Unusual Whales, so I was a buyer. I spent the $12. I said, F it, what's the worst that could happen? $12? $12 isn't going to make or break anyone. So let's look at the chart. Go EV. So if we're looking at the intraday chart or the 5-day chart, we'll look at that one because it'll give you a better disparity of when I bought to when I sold. I bought essentially here at the 723, 725 mark. This is essentially when the play alerted. Pay attention to the 9 SMA. We started trading above it. Immediately, it made me bullish, so I bought the play. If you're looking at the history, you see it. It was 721. 721 is essentially right here, right? Saw the red candles again, trading up close. I pulled the trigger because I saw it was $12. I didn't think it was bad. And then what proceeded after that? So for the rest of the day, essentially Go EV just traded flat. Then Friday came. So let's take a look at Friday. From the pre-market, as soon as the opening bell happened, you see this huge candle form over the 9 SMA. As soon as that happened, I just enjoyed the ride, and it was a nice ride up. Essentially, cashed it out essentially for $121 on a $12 play. Not a bad investment if you ask me. I wish I would have played more. As usually it is with most traders that are in the stock market, that's usually the same. They always wish they had more. And pay attention to when I sold. 924 at 1256. So let's get a reason as to why at 1256. So 1256 essentially is back up here, right? When you're looking at the intraday, there is a formation and pattern called top of a tower, right? A top of a tower is essentially when candles almost line up perfectly. So there was this run up. We had traded above the white SMA all the way up. I sold at 1256, which is right specifically here on this red candle. Because it was so close to the green, essentially this had to have formed either lower to continue a run up, because again at that point you're pulling back a little bit to continue running up, or because also another green candle pushing it up to the upside. Because you have a green candle, a red, and then a green, it's telling you this is the top level of where a stock will go. What ended up happening? It fell a little bit, traded sideways, and then after hours had a little spike to 945. But essentially, I left very little money on the table. As you can see, I had plenty of opportunities to sell this. I could have panicked and sold down here on this dip. I could have sold down here. I could have sold down here. I could have sold down here. But again, why? You always have more time. Look at the volume spikes that were going on every time it would dip, giving you confirmation. Just hold it, which is what I did. And I sold it till the very last minute. I left essentially, what is this? I sold 915, 916. So I left essentially 30 cents on the table, essentially, or what is that, 29 cents that I could have made. So again, it just goes to show you, not just because people say on the internet, oh, you should stay away from options. Should you? You always got to try different things to make money. This is another 121 that I can now go and reinvest into something else come Monday or Tuesday, right? But I think you guys get the point. That gives you the recap of the week. If you guys have any questions, as always, leave them in the comments below. I always appreciate any of the likes and subscribes as well, as I do want to get this channel's growth going. I do have a surprise for you guys. I am working on a couple different things for the channel that are going to make some major improvements. So stay tuned, TBD, as they say. And otherwise, guys, I'll catch you guys in the next one.